Hello everyone, this is Charlie from the Bloomingdale Public Library, and we had a patron request for a video on an application called Canva. So that is what we will be discussing today. So what is Canva? Canva is a graphic design application similar to Microsoft Publisher and Adobe InDesign, except there is a bigger emphasis on using their templates. I was honestly pretty overwhelmed on the Canvas home screen with so much content all over the place thrown at me from every which way, but it was just different presentations of their templates. Canva is a cloud-based application, which means you're going to need an internet connection. If you don't know what cloud-based means, think of using email and how you need an internet connection and you need to sign in order to get to your account. Canva is just like that. Canva is available in the app stores, so if you have an Android phone, Android tablet, an iPhone, an iPad, you can go to the app store and find Canva there, though the functionality is a bit reduced. There is also an app for the desktop, but it resembles the browser version almost exactly, and I've heard people have issues with bugs, so I would just stick with a desktop and a browser. So there is functionality built in for working with teams, building websites, and you can even pay Canva to create products with your designs, but we're not going to get into any of that today. Also, Canva is free to use, but you're going to see a lot of premium stuff mixed in with all of the usable elements, as well as a lot of pop-ups and advertisements and emails regarding their premium services, so just be ready for that. Okay, so how do we go about using Canva? First thing you need to do is open up a web browser. So Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Safari, Opera, whatever. Once you're open, go ahead and type in canva.com. And that should take you here. So to create an account, all you gotta do is click sign up for free in the middle or up in the upper right. Or if you didn't want to create an account right away, you can just scroll down a little bit and we get a little pop-up here. And if you click on play with Canva, it'll open up a project where you can get a test of the functionality, but you're gonna be limited as to what you can do. When you do click sign up, you get this window here, and you can choose one of a bunch of different ways of signing in. I personally just used my work email. When I did that, they sent me a code. I entered the code, went through a CAPTCHA, and that was it. So no password. How you choose to do it is up to you. But once you create your account, you're going to wind up on the home screen that looks something like this, although I did opt for the dark theme. First time on the home screen, what I would probably do is click on the gear in the top right for your account settings. As you can see, they only really requested a name and an address. But if you go to email preferences, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff that you're automatically opted into. So unless you like getting a whole lot of email and sharing your information with third parties, you probably want to toggle all of this off. So once you're done doing whatever you want to do with your email preferences, click on the Canva logo in the top left, and we'll take another look at the home screen. Canva basically took the shotgun approach to the home screen, as there is about a half dozen ways to go about opening and starting a project. So one thing you can do is just click in the search box and type in what you want to make. So if you want to make a card, just type in card. You have a couple suggested searches, a couple blank templates here, 8x4, 7x5. And then below that we have suggested templates with 31 plus thousand suggested templates. So you can click on see all, and you'll see all the templates here. All you got to do is click on one and you'll start a new project with that template. But I'm going to go back. Click on home. So other things you can do is click on custom size, type in a height and width. You can also choose different measurements. And you'll start off with a blank project with the desired size. You can also upload something to begin with. You can see by default, the theme is for you, basically suggestions for different types of projects that you might have done in the past. The whole top row, as I roll over it, you see it says create blank, even though there's images already there. If I scroll down, these are projects that I made earlier, just practicing. So again, that's just for you. If you click on docs, you'll see different document types. Scroll down to see more templates. Presentation, same thing. You have blank templates, a row of advertising, I guess, and then more pre-made templates. Lots and lots of templates. So yet another thing you can do is go to the design spotlight, and they show more lists of blank templates you can create, as well as a list of their services. Like I said before, if you like, you can have Canva actually create products with your designs for a price, of course. You got mugs, postcards, shirts, posters, etc. You can also just click on templates on the left side here. And again, more templates. Lots and lots of templates. Don't forget there's arrows on the right to scroll through more. I'm going to go back to the home screen. And although I'm probably missing another way you can create a new project, I am going to go ahead and click on an A4 document, and we can go ahead and get started. Before we get going, let's have a look around. First thing worth noting is that when we started a new design, we also opened up a new tab. Canva likes opening up new tabs, so if you go back and forth between screens a lot, just be aware that you're probably going to wind up with a half dozen Canva tabs or more. And if you're like me and want to keep your tab count down, it's just something to be aware of. Something else to be aware of is that because this is a cloud app, it will usually save as you go. And even if you were to close a window or go back to the home screen, whatever you had going is going to be saved. So while I was doing a lot of just exploring, I wound up with a whole bunch of blank, untitled designs in my account. So again, another thing to be aware of. So looking at the menu bar, our first option is to go back to the home screen. Next option is a file menu. So let's have a look at this one. First option is to title your design. I'll go ahead and do that. Below that, we have some information about the design. We have an option to create a new design, which will no doubt open a new tab. Import files. So if you had some images you wanted to import into your project from your computer or elsewhere, this would be how you'd get them in. View settings. If you wanted to see your rulers and guides or show your margins, this is where you can enable and disable those. We'll enable margins for now. Below that, you can do a manual save, but like I said, things typically get saved as you go. Check mark means things have been saved. If you see an ellipsis, that means changes are still in the process of being saved. And with a good connection, I've only really seen that as I move elements around on the page. And once I drop it, the ellipsis usually changes to a check mark. Next option is to save our current design to a folder. If I click on that, you see we don't have too many folders, but you can also create one just by clicking on Create New and giving it a name. And that will save our design to that new folder. You can make a copy of the current design. And then this one's kind of important, the download option. So you can't actually save a Canva file to your local computer. You can only download images and PDFs and maybe movies if that's what you're working on. So if I were to click on download, it's going to yell at me because I don't actually have anything there. But as you can see, we've got a PNG, and it'll give you a couple other options if I had anything on the page. So those options will give you a flat image, and you won't be able to move elements around the way you can in Canva. So if you wanted to do anything as far as editing with your Canva design, you have to do it in Canva. I think that's a little bit of a negative. So below that, you see we've got a couple other options here. This view history guy has a crown. What that means is it is a premium option, and you're going to see that crown all over the place as you use Canva, which is also kind of annoying as it's advertised as a free-to-use app, which it is, but again with a whole bunch of advertising, which is obnoxious. You see next to the file menu, we've got the resize option, which is premium only. Undo, redo buttons. A little cloud here, which again will display an ellipse instead of a check mark if changes are still pending. Going further down, again, we can rename our design right here. We've got a button, of course, to sign up for Canva Pro. Next to that, we see a C with a plus sign. The C is me. If you click on the plus sign, you can add people to your project, and then they can have access to your project and make changes as well. Insights shows how many people and how many times they looked at your stuff. Everything else is premium. And then share. So this would be how you go about perhaps presenting your design over the internet, or you could even record as you go. I'm not going to really get into that today. So looking at our workspace, it's kind of easy to miss, but we've got a little white square here. This is just a background color, as you can see. Above the page here, we have a lock page, which if you click that, will keep you from making changes. You might want to use that if you had other people involved in your project, or if you had multiple pages and just wanted to keep one from being altered. Above that, we have duplicate page if you wanted to create more pages to your project and start with the current page as a jump off point. Or you can just add another blank page by clicking the add page icon. To the right of that, we've got an add comment button, which you can add a comment for yourself, but it's predominantly for working with teams, so you can have a discussion over your design decisions. At the bottom, we have another add page button. And then we've got a lock to lock the background up at the top here. And I think it's just for the color for now, but you might have an image in there too. If you click this little up caret, you can see all the pages currently in your project. So if you had a report or a presentation, you'd probably have a whole bunch of pages. If you're just working on a poster or a postcard, probably not. Below that, we also have an option for notes if you're going to do a presentation. A zoom factor, which depending on the size of your project, this will be wildly different, so something to keep an eye on. A grid view, again, if you're doing a presentation, this would be an easy way to jump back and forth. A present full screen, if you click on that, this would be how you go about presenting your design to whoever you're sharing with. You can see the cursor even gets a little laser pointer kind of overlay. So you can use the arrows to go back and forth, escape to get out. And then we've got a little question guy here for online assistance. You can just type in some words and it'll bring up tagged responses. All right, so from there, let's go ahead and start looking at how we can change this guy up a bit. So by default, the design option is selected, and wouldn't you know it, we've got a whole bunch more templates. You'll see as I roll over them, some of them have multiple pages, so this template can either import all of, in this case, 5 pages, so it'd add 5 pages to your project, or you can open it up and choose just one for the current page. There's also an ellipsis at the top where you can see the tagged keywords. You can also star it, which will put the design into your star folder. And below that, you see the styles involved, which are just text styles, sizes, and colors. So you can choose to just apply the style without applying the full template. Just click out to get out of there. As you scroll through your options, again, you'll notice that little crown appearing in the lower right corner for premium only templates. If you don't like your options, there's usually thousands there. You can click in the search area, do a search, and that will pull up relevant projects with the proper dimensions and keywords. Next to the templates, you have styles, which in the case of cars, for A4 projects, there is nothing there. So skipping elements for now, again, we have an uploads option here where you can upload files just like we discussed before. If you had images or videos or whatever. You can also record yourself. If you click record, it'll ask if you want to show your cam and use your mic, and you can create a video. And anything that you upload or record will show up below with images, videos, and audio. You can see under the videos and audio, you can also try importing from your cloud services. I'm going to skip text for now. Projects are where your folders are, as well as all of your designs and various elements. So they're either categories at the top, or they're all listed if you keep scrolling. And then apps we'll discuss a little later as well. Okay, it's time to start adding some content. I'm going to change the background back to white just so we can see things a little bit better. So if you like, you can click on the design option here and you can choose a template just by clicking on it. Again, some of these have multiple pages. You can apply them all at the same time or just click on one to add it to the current page. And once you do, you can start rolling around, and as you roll over an element, you'll see its bounding box appear. And from there, you can do whatever you want to them. I'm going to undo that, and we're going to start from scratch. And I'm going to add an element. We'll start with a square. So I click and dragged on it, but you can also just click on it and it'll appear right in the middle of the page. You see, once I do that, we've got some options at the top, including text options because shapes can double as text containers. To add text, all you gotta do is select the object, then click on the inside and start typing. And I know that looks kind of small, but keep in mind we're zoomed to 37%. If we were to zoom in, you can see it's quite legible. If you wanted to increase or decrease it, the options are there, as well as change the styling. If you click on the style, the options will appear over on the left here, and you can see a lot of them get that little crown symbol indicating that they are premium. You can also do a search if you know the style you're looking for. And apparently no Comic Sans. What a shame. So over on the right here, we've got our element. It's got a whole bunch of handles. Depending on the element, it might not have all of them. You also might not be able to change the height and width ratio. For images, for instance, it'll keep the ratio to keep it from being distorted. In the case of a shape, you can click on the corners and change the height and width ratio at will, just by clicking and dragging. You can also click on the individual sides to just change one dimension at a time. If things are too small to click and move, by clicking on the object itself, which typically works, but otherwise you also get this little other crosshair button, and you can use that instead. Again, it usually appears once things get really small. I'm going to zoom in just a bit here. These rotating arrows here are to change the rotation. Up at the top here, if you click on shape, you can actually change the shape while keeping everything else the same. Next to that is the color. Next to that is adding a border if you like, as well as a couple other options. Change the color, etc. There's also an ellipse all the way on the far right here. So again, a couple more options that didn't fit. Animate will work like PowerPoint, where it'll just do a slide in, slide out, maybe transparency change. It doesn't make sense if you're doing something for print, but for like a web page or for a presentation, it might be something worth looking at. Position will let you simply move things to top right, bottom left, etc. And we also have options for transparency, and the lock over on the far right will lock it into place. The linked chain here is for a link, which again only makes sense in certain instances like presentations and web pages. So every element will have its own collection of options to change up here. Again, as you move things around, you'll see guidelines, which is helpful, especially once you start getting more elements on the page to line things up. And if you drag something all the way off the page, it's like deleting it. All right, so let's create something and cover the other topics as we go. So we're going to want to start with a background. And to do a background, we need an image. So you can either go to elements and look at the photos and videos and such. See if you like anything there. Again, you can also do a search by search term. Once you get your image on the project, you can right click on it and then set image as background, and there you go. If you don't like anything you're seeing, even after a search, you can also go to apps and then click on background. And when you do, you've got a bunch of background appropriate images, a lot less busy. You can choose amongst these. Just click on it and it's replaced. So looking at apps, there's a bunch of other ones as well. So you can attach your Google Drive or SharePoint or whatever to your Canva account. There's also some more with various bits of content, like an emoji. You click on emojis, you see exactly what you'd expect. Go ahead and pick one, click on it, and it's in the project. As you click on an app, it also appears in your left panel here. If you don't want it, you can roll over it, click on the X to get rid of it. All right, so let's say we wanted to sell our car and our plane. Let's go ahead and upload pictures of those. Go into Uploads, Upload Files, and here's our car. Beautiful. Upload a file, and here's our plane. Amazing. Now you'll notice these images have white backgrounds. If you wanted to remove that, you have the premium option, background remover in Canva Pro, or you can just remove that with GIMP, which is free, or Photoshop if you can find a copy of that. So again, I'm going to click on that to add it to the project, and with an image, you can click on Edit Image, and we have some options here for brightness, contrast, saturation, all sorts of filters. You can cruise through those if you like. You can also crop it, so maybe get rid of some of that extra white. There we go. Done. I'm going to click and drag on it, and it snaps to the margins by default. You can also click on position, maybe run it all the way at the top left. Boom. All right, let's add the car. We'll put it in the top right after we crop it. Done. Position, top, right, and there it is. Just to show what recording is, if you click record yourself, okay, I'm not showing my camera, but we do have audio. Click record. I am talking. Save and exit. I am talking. There it is. So that wouldn't make much sense for something you intend to print, but for a presentation or a website, maybe it might make sense. I'm going to go ahead and trash that. Now it came with a frame as well, which I'm going to delete as well. Let's go ahead and add some text. When you do, you've got a couple of heading options. The reason why you might want to use those is for working with styling. Styling has various options that go with heading types, Or you can just add a text box as well. If you click on add text box, it sticks it right there in the middle. And again, we have our text options. Make it a little bit bigger. Plane and car for sale! Exclamation point. Click on the A there to change the color. There we go. Alright, so continuing to make this look pretty, let's put our plane and car into a frame. So to do that, you go to Elements, scroll to the bottom, we have Frames. Click on a frame to add it. I'm going to shrink it a little bit. And to add an image to a frame, all you got to do is click and drag into the frame, and voila. And we'll do it for the car as well. Shrink it down a little bit. Click and drag into the frame. Amazing. Alright, to help the text stand out a little bit, we're going to add a shape. We're going to go to Lines and Shapes and click See All. We'll add a star. I'm going to drag the sides out all the way to the edges here. And it kind of snaps into place. And then drag this down a little bit, and you can see the guides line up. It also kind of snaps again into place. And let go. And in case things aren't in the right order in terms of layers, if the star was on top of the text, you can just click on the ellipsis here, position, and click forward or backward, whatever you need to do. So I clicked forward, now the star is in the way. Click ellipsis, position, backward, and now it's back behind the text. Now let's say this was a pamphlet and we were trying to sell this plane and car. We're going to want a backside to this with some more information. So I'm going to click Add Page. And there we go. And we'll have a section for the top and bottom for the plane and car respectively. So under Elements, I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to go to Grids and click on the top and bottom grid, and that divides the page into two. So from here we're going to need some background images. I'm going to go to Elements again, Photos, and we'll just take whatever's here. I'm going to click and drag into the frame, and that is good. It's going to be a little too bright to put text on top of, so I'm going to Edit Image and turn the brightness all the way down. Alright, let's do another one for the bottom. Again, Photos. I'm just going to take one here and drag it into place. Edit Image and brightness down. Okay, so for the top section, how about we add a chart? So I'm going to scroll down. We have a chart. Drag that up here. You'll notice on the left we have a bunch of options, and depending what kind of chart you use, you're going to have different options. And at the top we have color and font options as well. So we want a percentage label. Now it's at 67%, and we can change that with the little slider here. There we go. Now on the bottom, let's add a table. Let's scroll down, we have table. I'm just going to pick the first one here. We can only move it with the little crosshair icon at the bottom here. It has handles just like other things, and it snaps to the margins. Real nice. You can add more rows and columns with the plus sizes as you roll over the various nodes in the corners. We also have the ellipsis on the sides here for a bunch more table options, which I'll let you look at your leisure. If you wanted to add something to your table, just double click on a table cell and start typing. Oops. Again, it's really small because we're zoomed out quite a bit, but as I zoom in, you see it says hello. So that is the basics of creating a project and adding a whole bunch of different elements. Next, we need to print it out. So to get our project printed out, we can either download and print it ourselves, or we can go through Canva. To do it ourselves, we go to the File menu and click Download. We've got a bunch of premium options that are locked out to us, but the file type we can control. And by default, it's PNG. Click on that, and you have a couple more options. I'll click JPEG and click Download. So it's going to download all of our pages into a zipped folder. So to get at those, we just open the folder, extract the pages, click OK, and by default, they're going to go into the download folder. So they're numbered 1 and 2. Just open them up, and it should open in your default image viewer where you can print it normally. To go through Canva, just go to the home screen, and there's probably a couple of ways to do it, but if you go through Design Spotlight, you can see all this stuff about their top products. For today, we'd probably want flyers. On this page, they've got all sorts of stuff about pricing. But if you click Create Flyer on this page, it'll start up a new project, but with a Print Flyers button up at the top right. You can just import your project, click Print Flyers, and you can go from there. So where does that leave us? As I was using Canva, I felt there was a lot of pros and cons. Like, I was happy with it and unhappy with it at the same time, so I thought I'd point out the pros and cons of using a cloud app like this. For pros, I thought it was easy and intuitive to use. Of course, it's always nice to be able to access your stuff from basically anywhere with an internet connection and any device that can connect. There's literally thousands of templates you can use to get started or draw inspiration from. And the tools for working with teams seem to be a particularly bright spot versus other programs I've used. And the options to create your merchandise through Canva seems interesting, though I don't have any experience with it and don't know how well that actually goes. But that does bring us to the cons, which the big one with any cloud app is you need an internet connection. So if the service goes down or you have issues with your account, you could be in some trouble. I actually did have a couple of error messages come up where I couldn't save my project as I went. I think at least one made it through to the final recording. Another issue is speed. I have good speed, so I didn't really have much of an issue, but if you don't, it could make operations kind of wonky. One thing I really didn't like was that you couldn't download a project file, so you have to let all of your projects live on Canva with your only option to download flat images, which, again, that's a big minus for me. Another big minus is that the company has experienced several data breaches in recent years, so I only gave the company an email address and an initial, but if you're storing company documents on there, you might want to be careful with what you put on there and how much and how long you leave it. Another con is with all the templates out there, you need to make sure to change them up a bit to make them unique, especially if you're using it for company branding. Of course, we were using a free version, and the constant reminders of the premium options I felt was kind of obnoxious, especially for a big company and a big product that advertises itself as free to use. People with design experience are going to find it extremely limiting, so that limiting factor makes it very easy for beginners, but at the same time very restrictive for people that know what they're doing. And of course, as I pointed out several times, the browser constantly opening up new tabs when I'm not expecting it is just kind of a little bit of a nuisance. So all said and done, I would recommend this to beginners and probably not to a more advanced user. though I found my experience generally pretty good. So with all that said, I hope I piqued your interest, I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a good day.